A powerful explosion come two ancient cities. Is this just a biblical legend? Or perhaps rather a story about something that actually happened? I invite you to watch subtitles created by the Amara.org community, guided by biblical texts. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah begins in the times of the biblical patriarch Abraham. According to the Holy Scripture, the aforementioned cities were known for the wicked deeds of their inhabitants, which aroused the wrath of God and would bring swift destruction upon them. Despite multiple warnings, the inhabitants of these cities did not change their lifestyle and were punished. Did such cities really exist? Scientists have even pinpointed the place where such a mysterious disaster occurred. This was supposed to have happened in the ancient city of Tal el-Haman, which is considered to be the biblical Sodom. In the study published in 2021, there even appeared a theory according to which a meteor shower led not only to the destruction of the city, but virtually the entire coast of the Jordan Valley, depositing sediments over an area of more than 400,000 square kilometers. Surprisingly, this is fully in line with the book of Genesis, which describes the dramatic rain of sulfur and fire, which was supposed to be a punishment sent by God. In the above-mentioned city, they also found fragments of pottery covered with trinitite, a substance that was formed, arising from nuclear explosions, which might suggest that the destruction of Sodom was the result of an explosion comparable in force to this one, as emitted by a nuclear explosion. Moreover, human remains with intact skeletons up to the spine were found, with clear remnants of burns above this part. This would indicate that the victim of this explosion experienced an extreme thermal blast. What could this disaster have looked like? So, according to scientists, one of the large meteorites exploded in the atmosphere at an altitude of about 2.5 km. This resulted in the creation of a shockwave moving at a speed of 1200 kilometers per hour. Such a spectacular event would naturally leave no survivors. The explosion in question generated power comparable to several atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The closest comparable natural phenomenon that has occurred in human history, it would theoretically be the Tunguska disaster, which took place in Siberia in 1908. This explosion is also explained by a meteorite fall. I think it's worth mentioning here that the Sodom and Gomorrah case is quite exceptional, that the catastrophe itself did not occur in the Siberian taiga, separated from the nearest human settlements, but rather in one of the most important agricultural locations of this region. For years I've been wondering why one of the most productive agricultural areas, which has supported tens of thousands of people for over 3,000 years, suddenly it spontaneously died out and remained barren for several hundred years. However, what light does this shed on the very legend of Sodom and Gomorrah repeated in biblical texts? Is the search for the only just Lot that was supposed to be saved with its family by God's command just a literary fiction? Or maybe it's a highly romanticized story from a scientific witness of this event who was lucky enough. He found himself far enough from the city in the right time. Most of the stories about this incident focus essentially more on people than on the catastrophe itself. Description of the iniquities that brought the alleged wrath of God on Sodom and Gomorrah. It gives us a certain image of a dysfunctional society based on hedonism and even who attempted rape about the angels sent by God. The book of Ezekiel, it suggests, however, that the inhabitants of Sodom did not support the poorest, exhibited colossal pride, and generally promoted debauchery. Some interpretations suggest that the greatest sin, or at least the one that spilled the cup of bitterness, was their inhospitality. Of course, we can let our imaginations run wild and speculate that an omnipotent being, known to us as God, she would be capable of bringing a meteor shower to virtually any place in the world. The same could be done by a civilization at a sufficiently high level of development. The question is why? Despite the passage of thousands of years, this area remains barren. Would any creature, knowing this, cause such a catastrophe? Over the years, theories have even emerged that there was a nuclear bomb explosion in Sodom and Gomorrah. In this case, it is worth showing the photos from Hiroshima, which clearly prove that vegetation has no problem at all, even with the smallest doses of radiation, and is able to recover after just 80 years. And here's what the current archaeological site of Tal el Hammam looks like. The difference between them is striking. However, it would be inappropriate not to mention people who interpret other ancient texts. They conclude that Sodom and Gomorrah may have fallen victim to a different technology than the atomic or hydrogen bombs we know of. Traces of this conflict, they can be seen even in ancient Sumerian eras, in Hindu Sanskrit, or even Chinese, Slavic, Celtic, in Aztec legends about flying snakes or vipers, which completely ruled over lightning. Many supporters of this concept, evidence is seen in its support in ancient locations such as Mohenjo-daro or the vitrified forts in Scotland. This is first. It was established around the same time as Sodom, around 2600 years before our era, and it was destroyed in an equally mysterious cataclysm. You could even say it was an explosion on an even larger scale, because it left virtually no traces, including human and animal corpses. By the way, anticipating questions, Mohenjo-daro and Tal al-Hammam are over 4200 km apart, so most likely they did not fall victim to the same catastrophe, but rather two people. Strangely enough, they almost happened at the same time, because both Mohenjo-daro and Tal al-Hammam were inhabited 3000 years before our era. Being aware of this, it's hard not to consider the hypothesis that mankind in prehistory, it often went off track, and the controlling alien race, or even races, caused deliberate catastrophes like Half, whether a flood or nuclear wars, colloquially called the wrath of God. I admit it sounds incredible, even fantastic, but it's difficult to observe that this concept explains certain inconsistencies, although it creates new ones, one way or another. Research conducted in Tal al-Hammam puts biblical stories in a new light, although no meteorite remains have been found yet, which supposedly caused this disaster. All new findings in the area of Tal al-Hammam, they are approaching the understanding of the true history of sodomy and the cataclysm that caused its fall. Was it just an unfortunate accident, or part of some larger plan? Unfortunately, you have to decide for us by your own hand. As always, I encourage you to share your opinion below in the comment section. I also invite you to subscribe to the channel, click the bell, support our activity, and of course, I wish you all a great day. Stay warm and hear from you